The night air carried a restless silence across the gated neighborhood, the kind of hush that warns of a storm long before the clouds arrive. Streetlights glowed like patient witnesses as a sleek black sedan rolled to a stop in front of an immaculate brick home. The engine died, but the tension only grew. Inside the garage of that house, a quiet man was finishing his evening routine, unaware that a stranger's arrogance was about to collide with his resolve. Without knocking or calling, a silver luxury SUV crept into his driveway and paused as if the driver owned every inch of space she saw. The tires ground over the smooth concrete and the motion sensor light flashed awake. A woman stepped out with a briskness that spoke of entitlement more than urgency. She looked at the door, glanced around, and with the careless ease of someone accustomed to claiming what was not hers, she pressed a remote and eased her vehicle inside the open garage. The door lowered behind her with a mechanical sigh, and the sound echoed like a verdict. She did not know the man had installed a reinforced locking system after a series of petty HOA disputes. She did not know that the homeowner watched the feed on his phone as her car disappeared from sight. She could not guess that her evening errand had just crossed an unspoken line. Beneath the quiet of suburban order, a confrontation was already taking shape, one that would expose prejudice woven deep into the fabric of their neighborhood. The garage door closed. The night sealed the moment, and the man prepared to act. Marcus Williams had chosen this neighborhood for its promise of peace. He had worked 15 years in environmental engineering, saving carefully, determined to own a home where his mother could visit without fear and his niece could play without stairs. The gated development in Northern Virginia seemed perfect at first glance. Tree-lined streets curved around small lakes. Lawns stayed clipped with precision. The HOA brochure praised community harmony and shared standards. It sounded like a sanctuary. From the beginning, small signals hinted that harmony had conditions. At the welcome meeting, several board members avoided eye contact as he introduced himself. Flyers about maintaining the aesthetic character arrived in his mailbox more often than for others. A neighbor once suggested with forced cheer that he might prefer neighborhoods better suited to his background. Marcus answered politely each time, unwilling to surrender the home he had earned. He installed cameras after someone scraped his car and left a note that read, "Rules keep us safe." The HOA president, Karen Ellison, embodied those rules. In her early 50s, always brisk and perfectly dressed, she saw herself as guardian of the neighborhood's image. She cited regulations with icy precision. She knocked on doors about trash bins left out a minute too long. She corrected paint shades that strayed from the approved palette. To her, Marcus was a challenge. His quiet confidence unsettled her need to control. She questioned the color of his shutters, then the height of his hedges, then the pattern of his porch light. Each notice arrived with a clipped signature, K. Ellison, HOA President. Marcus responded with documented compliance but never deference. He knew that compliance alone rarely satisfied those who confuse authority with superiority. Friends urged him to file complaints of harassment. He chose patience, hoping professionalism would outlast hostility. He focused on his work designing urban green infrastructure, a field where data and results silence bias. But each subtle slight tightened a coil of frustration. By late autumn, tension had become routine. Karen's watchful patrols passed his house daily. Anonymous comments circulated about keeping property values stable. Marcus strengthened his garage security and upgraded the internal lock system, not out of fear of theft but to guard against intrusion. He wanted sanctuary within his own walls. He could not know that his precaution would soon become the very tool of justice. Winter approached with gray skies and long nights. The neighborhood sparkled with holiday decorations, each display competing for HOA approval. Marcus kept his lights understated. He had learned that quiet excellence irritated those who demanded spectacle on their own terms. Karen increased her visits, arriving with new notices about mailbox placement and leaf removal. Marcus documented each interaction, building a silent record of her obsession. One afternoon he overheard her speaking with another board member near the lake. Their voices carried across the water. She complained that standards were slipping and mentioned his address specifically. The words stung, not because they surprised him, but because they revealed how confidently she spoke of exclusion. He thought of the long history of neighborhoods guarded by invisible walls. He thought of his grandmother, who once told him that dignity is not silence, it is endurance with purpose. Days later, a package went missing from his porch. Cameras caught a glimpse of a figure in a pale coat, but not enough to identify. When he shared the footage with the HOA, Karen replied curtly that the association was not responsible for personal delivery mishaps. The dismissal hardened his resolve. He reinforced the garage door and upgraded the locking mechanism to a digital system accessible only through his phone. He would protect his space, even if the community would not protect his rights. Then came the evening of the intrusion. A drizzle misted the air and Marcus returned from a late site inspection. He parked inside, closed the door, and settled into his routine. Across the neighborhood, Karen prepared for an HOA reception scheduled for the next morning. She planned to store extra decorations and supplies, but her own garage overflowed. Annoyed and impatient, she sought a quick solution. Karen had long imagined Marcus's property as an extension of the community she claimed to own. She noticed his garage door momentarily open as he carried tools inside. Without hesitation, she drove her SUV to his driveway, convinced of her right to temporary use. Perhaps she believed no one would mind. Perhaps she simply did not care. In that moment, her casual trespass became an act weighted by years of bias. Marcus watched through the camera feed as her headlights swept into his space. Shock gave way to clarity. He saw not just a vehicle, but a symbol of every intrusion endured quietly by people who are told to be grateful for what they have. He remained still, heart steady, as the garage door closed behind her. With one tap on his phone, he engaged the internal lock, a mechanism designed for storms but perfect for this confrontation. Karen stepped out, placed a box in the corner, and left without noticing the subtle click of the reinforced latch. She returned minutes later to retrieve her car and found the door unresponsive. She tried again, impatience rising. Marcus observed from the living room, the camera feed bright with her movements. The scene unfolded slowly, each second heavy with the history of unchallenged privilege. Karen's confidence faltered as she pulled at the handle and pressed the remote. The door remained still. She tapped her phone, perhaps to call for help, then stopped as realization dawned. The garage was sealed. The vehicle she considered an extension of her authority now rested firmly within the property she had disrespected. Outside, the night deepened. Inside, Marcus breathed evenly, measuring each decision. He did not gloat. He did not rush. He allowed the weight of consequence to settle. For years he had endured the erosion of small injustices, each one dismissed as trivial. Now the imbalance reversed. He controlled the space. He controlled the outcome. He let time stretch until her composure frayed. Finally, he activated the speaker system connected to the garage. His voice remained calm and measured. He informed her that she had entered private property without consent and that her vehicle was secured until local authorities could verify the situation. He reminded her that trespassing carried legal implications. He did not raise his tone. He did not insult. He spoke with the authority of a homeowner defending what was his. Karen attempted to argue, but the closed space reduced her protests to echoes. She tried to command, then to plead, but the locked door held firm. Marcus contacted the non-emergency police line, reporting an unauthorized vehicle in his garage. Officers arrived quietly and documented the incident. They confirmed his right to secure his property. Karen stood in the cold as her SUV remained inside, a silent testimony to the limits of entitlement. The neighborhood watched from behind curtains. Word spread quickly. By the time the officers released the vehicle, the story had already taken root as a lesson more powerful than any HOA citation. Karen avoided his eyes as she retrieved her keys. The law that she had often invoked to control others now protected the man she had sought to diminish. In the following weeks, the atmosphere of the neighborhood shifted. Karen's authority waned. Homeowners who once deferred to her strict oversight began questioning the necessity of her rules. Attendance at board meetings increased. Voices previously quiet found strength. Marcus did not boast or seek revenge. He simply lived, his dignity intact and visible. The incident exposed more than a single act of trespass. It revealed how subtle prejudice thrives when shielded by procedure and politeness. Karen had not shouted slurs or issued threats. She had acted on an unspoken belief that her presence carried unquestioned permission. That belief met a boundary reinforced by law and by a man who refused to be diminished. Marcus continued his work and maintained his home with the same care as before. But he carried a deeper understanding of resilience. He saw how personal boundaries could challenge systemic habits. He saw neighbors reconsider their assumptions. Some offered quiet apologies. Others offered friendship for the first time. The garage remained the same, but its locked door became a symbol. It stood for the countless times people of color protect their space, their identity, their hard-won peace. It reminded the community that fairness requires action, not only words. When spring returned, flowers lined the walkway and children played without tension. Marcus often wondered how many other neighborhoods wrestled with the same hidden struggles. He knew that dignity, once asserted, cannot be taken back. As you reflect on this story, ask yourself a question that lingers beyond the gates of any one street. How often do we overlook the quiet boundaries of others because we believe our presence needs no invitation? Real justice sometimes arrives not in grand gestures but in the simple firmness of a locked door, a calm voice, and the unshakable truth that respect is not optional.